is they'll take the XY axis, and what I'm seeing right now is this sort of at an angle. Here's the y-axis, and then the x-axis, and actually I'm just drawing the first octant, because if you're doing 3 dimensions, you're going to have the axes divide 3 space into 8 portions, and then this is my z-axis right here. Now that's my where x, y, and z are all positive. Sometimes I'll do this. I will do dotted lines to represent the negative portion of these lines, of these number lines. So we're doing 3 dimensions. And kind of looking in the book a little bit, they kind of tilt the y-axis slightly down and the x-axis at an angle like this. Sometimes I might, depending on what I'm trying to graph, I might put the y-axis straight and then the x-axis tilt, coming at an angle, and z-axis straight up. And depending on what you're graphing, you might have reason to maybe label them differently. You know, maybe the z-axis might be right here with the y-axis. Just depends on what you're trying to graph.
Can you label those x, y, and z for the negative portion on the left-hand side? On the left-hand side.
Label it
Which
with.
one is the negative x?
Oh, this would be negative x. So
Okay.
this would be x.
Gotcha.
This is z, and this is y.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. So here, if I put in my little dotted lines, if I'm doing dotted lines, well, I'm on the negative side. And so let's do some point plotting. In 2 space, well, you had an XY pair. And in 3 space, we have an ordered triple. So we'll do this. We'll plot an ordered triple. And so I would call this XYZ. You just have 3 coordinates, and here's a couple of problems. I want to plot point A, where sometimes they write these, I'll write A, and then they'll just use parentheses for this point, or sometimes they might have A equals. So A is 2, 3, 5. And I want to plot B, where B is -1, -3, 2. So I will draw my axes in here, and I'm going to put the Y slanted on my paper. See, the problem is you're trying to draw 3 dimensions on a flat piece of paper. So here's my positive axes, and I will mark off. Okay, so X, 1, 2, 3, 4 on the x-axis. On the y-axis, I'll try to use the same spacing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's positive direction. Positive direction on Z is straight up. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And maybe, I guess I'll put in 5, but it keeps going. So for point A, which is 2, 3, 5, I'll start at 0, 0, 0, and I'll come out to 2 on the x-axis, Now, if I stop right there, what are the coordinates of this point? 2, 0, 0. So I come out to the 2, 0, 0. And then I'm going to go to 3 on the y-axis. But what I want to do is from 3 on y is kind of sketch in a little line that's parallel to the x-axis. And from this point on the x-axis, the 2, 0, 0, I'm going to sketch in a line that's parallel to the y-axis. What's that point? 2, 3, 0. Because I haven't done z at this point. This point would be 2, 3, 0. And I'm writing it lightly in pencil. This is kind of showing my thinking on how to get where I want to go. And then what I'll do is from this point come straight up parallel to the z-axis. Parallel to z as best you can. And then here I'm looking at my markings on z, and I'm going to try to match that same spacing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I went up 5 units. This is point A, which is 2, 3, 5. And if I kind of complete my picture with these parallel lines, like from 2, 0, 0, I can go parallel to z. This part's not necessary. Parallel to the y-axis. And what are you going to get? What figure? A rectangular prism. Okay. So there I've plotted point A. Let's do B. So for point B, I'm looking at negative numbers. So let me take my x-axis, and that is just like you put a ruler up to the x-axis and put dotted lines on the back side here. There's my negative side of x, the negative side of y, and the negative side of z. So for point B, I will go to -1 on x. So what is this point right here where my pen is pointing? -1, 0, 0. And so from here, I'll go parallel to y in the negative direction and use kind of the same markings here. And this point is now -1, -3, 0. And now I have to go up 2 units on z, but from here, draw the line parallel to the z-axis, up 2 spaces. Here's point B. Let me ink these in here, B and A. All right, so you will be expected on the next test to be able to plot some points, draw some vectors in free space, and things like that. So it's something that you want to practice. Now I want to talk about this. We'll see 3 space, sometimes written capital R, and in math they put a double bar on the R and with a little raised exponent. Well, I'm calling it an exponent. So let's call this some notation in math. So if you see, let's start with just the capital R with a double line R. Anybody know what this means in math? It's all real numbers. This is a symbol for all real numbers. This is, okay, the real numbers. When you took algebra, sometimes they would denote this capital R as negative infinity to infinity. If you gave interval notation, that capital R with a double R, the phrase the real numbers, and this interval notation, they all mean the same thing. And what is this geometrically? This is a single number line. Like if you were sitting in an algebra class and they said graph this, okay, here's my number line. I'll put a few, but I guess I really wouldn't even have to put any numbers on it because, and the graph of R would be, well, let me shade in the whole line. Now, when you get to the XY coordinate system, they'll write it like this. Or they'll write R with a little 2, R squared. And this can also be written as R by R. And this is what you were probably introduced to in Algebra 1 in 9th grade or 8th grade whenever you took it. This is a plane. And in fact, it is the XY plane is what we typically call it. The XY coordinate system. So geometrically, that's what? You have your horizontal line, and we come at a 90-degree angle with the vertical line, the x-axis, and the y-axis. So you're pretty familiar with that. And in this chapter, what we're doing is we're kind of bumping it up a notch, and we're doing capital R third, 3 space. So this would be R by R by R, and it is 3 space or 3 dimensions. And so this is now the XYZ coordinate system. The XYZ coordinate system. Oh, and if you hear the phrase Cartesian coordinates, these are Cartesian coordinates. And so is R squared, Cartesian coordinates. So if they say give something in Cartesian coordinates, they're talking about this. All right, so you'll see that notation.